say I'm an impact investor, what is my intention? Is it that I want the impact to happen so that I want to ensure that the enterprise is going to be able to sustain itself to do this because it's profitable and growing, or that I want him to be very profitable so that I can get some dividend. Plus, it sounds like it is also doing good, which is a weightage.
So, Jack, we talked about it, right? There are two extremes to it. You could be doing 99% economic and 1% impact on one extreme, or you could be doing 99% impact and 1% profit, or something in between. There is something 2/3, 1/3, 1/3. So there is not a standard measure. For example, think about the alternative proteins, right? In our space, it's a very innovative area. Outcomes can be very hard to measure, right? As the sector is so new, right? Alternative protein is where, you talk about plant-based meat and cell-based cultivated meat and fermentation, right? So we are saying we're changing the whole food technology, the agrarian, economy. Now, in something like that, it's basically making an investment in innovation, and that can create far more effective utilization of capital and talent. But the path forward is very uncertain. So please include in it a degree of difficulty. I'll just give you a very simple anecdotal example. Let's say that I fund 1,000 kids in Dharavi, right, which is urban poor in Mumbai, right? And the impact I make from it versus I take 100 kids in Arunachal Pradesh, Northeast India, right? Mountainous terrain, degree of difficulty is very, very high. Which one do you think has made the more impact? There's a degree of difficulty in there. It's not so simple to measure. Say 1,000 kids is 10 times more impactful than 100 kids. It's usually not that simple.
I think most people will go to Dharavi and just ignore the Arunan.
Let's not collectively agree here today to not do that.
No, but if that's the case, then wouldn't it be easier to just go for the low-hanging fruit?
I think that's exactly. Go ahead,
but that's where you have to look at. You can't just look at impact investing in isolation. And that is why, when we look at AVPN as a network, we look at the entire continuum of capital. And that is where, Jack, you also come in, right? You look at philanthropy, you look at CSR, you look at investment. There are three pillars which have to come in and work together. So if you really look at it, philanthropy is catalytic money. It's money that you have already identified you're going to give away. It should be the one that takes the biggest risk, because you've already identified that money is going to, be given away. It should be the one that takes on, in Jayesh's words, the difficult piece of the task. It should be the money that is used to prove the concept that this is creating impact. That is the money that, Jack, that has come to you to prove that this toilet issue can actually be addressed. And it can be addressed by talking to government. It can be addressed by creating infrastructure. It can be addressed by addressing behavioral issues as well. You can build toilets, but if people prefer to go and sit outside in the field and use that, they're not going to use the toilet. It's not just making the toilet, it's also making sure that the toilet is used. So you have to look at capital in different shapes and forms depending on where you are. So, if it is about constructing a school in Arunachal Pradesh or in an area which is difficult to get to, maybe philanthropy can create that. And if it is then looking at replicating that model and creating a chain of schools, that's where investment comes in. So it's not very, demarcated and clear cut and said, okay, this is the money that I'm going to use as a grant. This is the money that I'm using as investment. So even for individuals, we should look at it. And I'm going to speak on Jayesh's behalf here and say, this is how he looks at his portfolio. I'm sure he earmarks some amount of money that he's going to give away. He looks at some amount of money where he's taking a much more patient approach because of the impact that he is getting, but his returns are coming in either at a slightly lower level or over a longer period of time. And then there is some that he is doing where he's looking at the financial return. And I'm sure he's not investing in any industries that do harm, but he's not prioritizing impact in that part of his portfolio. So we have to take a portfolio approach to how we look at investments and how we look at addressing social issues.
For impact investing, obviously, takes into consideration the business model, the team, typical, right? Any investment, you want to see the team, you want to see the economics, you want to see the long-term profitability of that company, and then of course an exit so that you can get your money back. So one of the things Naina mentioned is, how do I look at my portfolio and my impact investing dollars? I typically don't take it out. I have the choice. When my company succeeds and I get my investment dollars back, I have chosen to reinvest it back. Impact investing now has become a lot broader than how it used to be 20 years ago.
Mostly talking about blended capital. And if you have a portfolio, you kind of cross-subsidize a little bit, then the whole basket is positive, right? So,
yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think you said it really nicely. So you cross-subsidize across that basket. The choices you make are, you basically buy that basket, or you put that basket together with the intention that you are looking at a positive impact. Now, how you choose what you put in that basket is depending on, whether you're prioritizing impact, you're prioritizing returns, you're balancing them. What are you doing? But the idea also for the investor, to give them credit, is that they want to continue investing. And so it's important for them also to be able to balance their portfolio, because if they put everything in a high risk, high return kind of investment, the chances of actually being able to do or continue as Jayesh has been doing for many, many years becomes that much more difficult. So you have to also balance that. And, and which is why it's really important, especially for any social entrepreneurs who are listening to this, that you have to think about your business as a business first. If you don't have a business, then there will be no question of having any impact in any way. Right? The business finishes, the impact also goes with that. So if you want to continue to create impact, the focus on, basic business principles, on good financial management, on strategy, on, looking at how you use technology, all of that becomes very important.
And also, just one additional point is the DFIs. Who are the investors in these funds? The DFIs, which are the development funds, right? And they come forward. So whether it's IFC, whether it's CDPA, FMO, there are many, many DFIs. And they come forward. And in many cases, they'll say, hey, can you set up a fund for sub-Saharan Africa for this, let's say, for example, waste management? Can you set up a fund for these causes? And I'm willing to take a lower return, but the impact in that particular geographic place and the vertical, I'm willing to do that. And so they come to many of these venture capital funds requesting them to set this up. So yes, that blended and the level of risk taking versus the economic returns is always a conversation that we have in the impact investment community.